Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and here is a new video called The Rose King Lives in My Heart Rent Free. I hope you enjoy it. This video is about one of the most harrowing and personal reads of my life. Requiem of the Rose King is a tragedy and probably my favourite among all the ones that I've had the chance to read. So perhaps it's no surprise that it is a retelling of one of Shakespeare's greatest historical plays, Richard III. Requiem of the Rose King, at its heart, is a story about the human condition, and in that, it's not different from many other stories. But where it differs is the raw, unadulterated flux of emotions that it makes you feel. And these emotions are thoroughly conveyed through the beautifully drawn panels, as well as its immaculate writing. Reading a chapter of this manga, you're intrigued by the mystery that surrounds the characters and the plot, you're made to laugh at and fall in love with the characters, and then you're made to weep as you see them fall deeper into an abyss which they themselves have dug by their own hands. Richard, the main protagonist of this story, was born a bit different from others. But in many ways they are similar to the rest of us. We all inherit from our parents many things: names, a home, friendships and rivalries, ambitions, blessings, and curses. You know, things like, "You're just like your father," or "You ruin everything that's nice." Well, Richard received their own curse from the person whose only job was to love them. And yet, twisted by the twisted world they lived in, they ended up passing on a festering wound that haunted them, both of them, until the very end. Richard, demon child, were you abandoned by your mother? Of course you were. The day you were born, a terrible storm cut down the trees. The owl cried out, the night crow cried out, to tell the world that an age of misfortune had come. Your mother suffered so in labour, and then what was born? To wit, an indigested and deformed lump. Shall I tell your fortune, Richard? Someday, great numbers of the elderly who've lost their children, great numbers of widows, great numbers of orphans, they will lament the untimely deaths you bring about. They will cry and ask, why was he born? They will curse the day you were born. The biggest problem with curses though, especially when passed on to children, is that they tend to become self-fulfilling prophecies, and thus, inflicted with this curse, this festering wound, our hero begins their journey. A journey through a rose garden filled with many colourful roses and novel scents, and they are aiming for the biggest and most beautiful of them all, which sits atop a mountain of thorns. After all, if they claimed that most gorgeous of all blooms, they would stand closest to the holiest and warmest of lights. And maybe then, they'll feel happy and their curse would go away. Richard moves swiftly, unfazed by whatever this mad garden throws at them. They dash and don't stop no matter how many times the thorns grab onto them, graze their fur cheeks, draw their blood, and take away the precious pieces of their heart. And in due time, they reach the top of the mountain of thorns and claim that most vaunted of blooms. They pick it and smell the scent, rejoice at having claimed it. But it's awfully cold atop this mountain of thorns, and they're really lonely. The thorns took away all that kept them warm. But surely, it was all worth it, right? And if they persist, no matter what else the thorns may take away, they will surely attain that eternal light, that eternal warmth. Richard persists. They keep the bloom in their fair hands, no matter what the thorns take away, until at the end, when all is gone, when the bloom is finally snatched away, then and only then, from deep within, something stirs back and gives them a very warm hug. A really snuggly one too. The story of the Requiem of the Rose King is a heartbreaking tragedy, and yet, there is a lesson in all tragedies. I believe this story is ultimately about making peace with the world and this crooked, unpleasant experience we call life. But most importantly, it is about making peace with oneself. It is also about valuing those transient magical moments of our lives. It is about opening the gates of our hearts to the few rays of light that make it through the wall of thorns. It is about giving yourself a big snuggly hug from time to time. But just to be clear, Requiem of the Rose King is not a tearjerker and Richard is not a tragic hero. Sure, it was a harrowing read for me, because for some reason I kept putting myself in Richard's shoes. But Richard is certainly far more of a villain than a hero. They cheat, deceive, assassinate and seduce to get rid of any and all obstacles. But none of these make them any less of a human, or as the curse would dictate, a devil. They're certainly not a good person, but they're still human, not a devil. Now, I understand that some of the stuff about giving yourself a big hug and self-love and, making peace with yourself all might feel like self-help nonsense, but I assure you, if you oblige this dance, if you take Richard's hands and dance this ball, I promise you will see the value in the so-called small things in life. But some of you may wonder, why should I subject myself to this? Why should I subject myself to reading about heartbreaking tragedies? Aren't our lives already fraught with heartbreak and anxiety? Oh well, some of you, just like me, may be masochists who enjoy mentally torturing themselves, but to give an honest answer, I feel like it is because our lives are so rife with discontent, anxiety and tragedy that we have a need to read such stories. Vicariously experiencing dramas and tragedies will give us the chance to understand that bad things can and will happen to everyone who lives this life. It also allows us to not just experience but clearly think about and unpack such experiences so that we may have the chance to make peace with what has happened. So to bring all this to a close, I think everyone should give Requiem of the Rose King a chance. And as I said before, it's based on Shakespeare's Richard III and it is a retelling of the War of the Roses, so I understand if you have an idea of what the story is going to be. But I'd say even if you know what's going to happen, it's still worth giving it a try. And that is the video. I was trying to get this out earlier, but life happened. Nonetheless, if you're hearing this, it means I've successfully wrapped everything up and uploaded the video. So I'd very much like to ask you, if possible, if you can, support the official release of the Requiem of the Rose King. As you can see probably on your screens right now, I'm trapped in one of the deepest fissures on Earth, so I can't really support the show myself. So I'd very much like to ask you to support it if you can, if you have the means to do so. With that, I hope I'll see you in another video and take care.